Hello students, how are you all? Hope you are well and safe at home. Today I will teach you the new chapter of history, that is new political formation. In this chapter you will be studying about the later Mughals, declining of the Mughal period, independent kingdoms, regional powers, the Marathas and the Peasant Rebellion. So let us begin the chapter.
Aurangzeb died in 1707. His successors were known as the later Mughals. The Mughal Empire declined during their rule as they were incapable. Bahadur Shah I was the first and the last of the later Mughal rulers to exercise real authority. He was learned, dignified, and tried to win over the Rajputs, the Marathas, and the Sikhs. He was succeeded by Jahandar Shah, who was a weak ruler and came to the throne only with the help of Zulfikar Khan, the powerful noble who, as a reward, was made the Wazir, that is, Prime Minister. Farrukhsiyar came to power with the help of Sayyid brothers Abdullah Khan and Hussain Ali Khan Barha, the kingmakers. By 1719, the two brothers soon acquired dominant control over the affairs of the state. In 1720, they made Muhammad Shah the emperor. Muhammad Shah wanted to free himself from the hold of the Sayyid brothers, and so he stripped them of their power. He had a long reign but made no efforts to strengthen the empire. At the end of his reign, the Mughal Empire stood in name as the powerful governors established independent kingdoms in various regions. Invasions. With the invasions of Nadir Shah in 1739 and of Ahmad Shah Abdali in 1761, the Mughal Empire was dealt a mortal blow. Nadir Shah took away the famous Kohinoor diamond along with the peacock throne of Shah Jahan. Bahadur Shah Zafar was the last Mughal emperor who ruled from 1837 to 1857. Students, due to these invasions, Mughal Empire became weaker and weaker, and due to this, many independent kingdoms were formed. So let us see the independent kingdoms. The period from the beginning of the 18th century saw the rise of several regional powers such as Sikhs, Rajputs, Marathas, Nawabs of Awadh and Bengal, Nizam of Hyderabad, etc. Some of these kingdoms were former Mughal provinces carved out by governors and wazirs serving the Mughal rulers. These political formations weakened the Mughal rule considerably and tried to expand their area of influence. Of these emergent independent kingdoms, Awadh, Bengal, and Hyderabad were the most prominent. So let us see these three kingdoms. Now let us see these three independent states. Awadh. Sadat Khan, the governor of Awadh Suba, was appointed by Muhammad Shah in 1722. He established Awadh as an independent kingdom in 1722. Sadat Khan and his successors ruled Awadh as independent rulers for all practical purposes. The zamindars of Awadh often refused to pay taxes on time. Sadat Khan suppressed the rebellious zamindars and reformed the revenue system. He did not discriminate among various religions, maintained order and discipline in the kingdom, and increased the finances of the state. He even held the combined office of the Subadar, Fauzdar, and the Diwan. Sadat Khan was succeeded in 1739 by Safdar Jung. Under him, Awadh had a long period of peace and prosperity, and it resulted in the growth of distinct culture centered at Lucknow. Lucknow, now as their capital, became a major center of art and culture. Bengal. The Nawab of Bengal were efficient rulers. They rose to eminence when the Mughal Empire declined. Under Murshid Quli Khan, Bengal went through a period of peace and prosperity with the help of an organized administration. He made Murshidabad his capital. He was succeeded by Shajauddin from 1727 till 1739. After him, Alivardi Khan, then Shirajudaulah became the rulers of Bengal. Trade, commerce and agriculture were encouraged along the people's security by constructing police stations or thanas at regular intervals. A strict control was maintained over the foreign trading companies. In the 18th century, Bengal became one of the most prosperous regions of India. However, the Nawabs did not realize the importance of a strong army. They did not build forts and strengthen the army. The Nawabs did not realize that East India Company was not just a trading company, and in the Battle of Plassey in 1756-57 they were suppressed and defeated by the British. This laid the foundation of the British rule in India. Now let us see the next state, that is Hyderabad. Chinkilich Khan was a powerful noble in the court of Farrukhsiyar and Muhammad Shah. He was accorded the title Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah and given the responsibility of governing the Deccan provinces. He built the state of Hyderabad and ruled as an independent ruler. He appointed mansabdars and granted them jagirs, overruling the authority of the Mughal kings who were powerless and agreed to his decisions. Nizamul Mulk's successors came to be known as Nizams. Now, let us see the another topic, that is regional powers, the Rajputs. Rajputs had been the allies of the Mughals since Akbar's reign. As the early Mughal rulers respected their sovereign status and appointed them to high position in the Mughal court, they often cooperated with them. However, Aurangzeb severed all relations with them, so they turned against the Mughals. By the early 18th century, most of the Rajput states had become independent. Savai Raja Jai Singh of Amber was an exceptional ruler of the 18th century. He founded the city of Jaipur and made it his capital. He promoted various social reforms and took keen interest in scientific learning. He also built astronomical observatories in Delhi, Mathura, Ujjain, Jaipur and Banaras. Now let us see Punjab under Sikhs. Sikhism started as spiritual movement under Guru Nanak. However, it became a strong political and military force called Khalsa, that is pure, under Guru Gobind Singh. He inspired his soldiers to fight the Mughals through the slogan Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. It means that the Khalsa belongs to God and all victories of the Khalsa are victories of God. After Guru Gobind Singh, Banda Bahadur rose as the leader of Sikhs. He carried out the fight against the Mughals. Eventually, Sikhs brought Punjab and Jammu under his control. They organized themselves into 12 misls or confederacies. These misls were equal in status and cooperated with each other. But with time, they also started to fight among themselves. Towards the end of the 18th century, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the leader of the Sukar Chakia misl, united all the misls and established a powerful kingdom in Punjab. Now let us see another independent kingdom, that is Mysore. Mysore rose to prominence with Hyder Ali, who started his life as an ordinary soldier. Hyder Ali and his son Tipu Sultan made Mysore very powerful. Both Hyder Ali and Tipu modernized the army and introduced new and efficient weapons. With the help of the French, Hyder Ali established a modern arsenal at Dindigul. Tipu Sultan even made efforts to build a modern navy. Tipu was known as the Tiger of Mysore. Hyder Ali defeated the British in the First Anglo-Mysore War in 1769. He died in the Second Anglo-Mysore War in 1782. Tipu Sultan's innovation in weapons were quite amazing for his enemies. He had to fight continuously with the British. Finally, he died in the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War at Seringapatnam in 1799. Now let us see the Marathas. The Marathas were minor chieftains serving in the kingdoms of Ahmednagar, Bijapur and Golconda. When these kingdoms became weak, the Marathas came into power in Konkan region under the leadership of Shivaji. Now let us see Shivaji Bhosle. Shivaji Bhosle was born in 1627 at Shivneri, a hill fort near Pune. His father Shahaji Raje Bhosle was employed as officer in the army of the Sultan of Bijapur. Shivaji was brought up under the care of his mother Jijabai and guardian Dadaji Kondadev. Shivaji assumed the title of Chhatrapati after formally declaring himself king in 1674 in a ceremony at Raigad. Using guerrilla warfare tactics with his young army, he captured many forts near Pune. In 1670, Shivaji renewed his war against the Mughals with greater vigor and reclaimed many forts that he had ceded to the Mughals. At last, Aurangzeb was obliged to reorganize him as Raja. Now let us see Shivaji's administration. Shivaji was not only a courageous soldier and brilliant military strategist but also an able successful administrator. His administrative system was largely borrowed from the administrative practices of the Deccan states. He had a council of 8 ministers called the Ashtpradhan to advise him. Now let us see the sources of revenue of Marathas. Shivaji laid down an excellent revenue system. Land revenue was the main source of income. Shivaji collected two-fifths of the produce as land tax from the territories directly under him. From areas not directly under his control, he collected the following two taxes. The inhabitants paid the chauth or one-fourth of the standard revenue to their king as protection money against the plundering raids of Shivaji. The territories which paid chauth were also required to pay an additional tax called Sardesmukhi. This was 1/10 of the revenue of those areas. Those who paid Sardesmukhi received Maratha protection against other invaders. It was a tributary tax. Now let us see military administration of Maratha. Shivaji created and maintained the organized and disciplined army consisting of infantry, cavalry, and navy. He recruited only able persons and managed a huge army. His army mostly composed of light infantry and light cavalry was well adapted to guerrilla warfare in the hilly terrain of the Western Ghats. The army movements were extremely quick. Now let us see the successor of Shivaji. Shivaji was succeeded by his son Sambhaji, who too was an able ruler. However, the subsequent rulers were not capable enough and eventually the Peshwas took all the powers in their hands. From 1713 to 1761, under the Peshwas, the Maratha Empire flourished. In 1713, Shivaji's grandson Sahu appointed Balaji Vishwanath as his Peshwa or chief minister. He was an able administrator and helped Sahu control the Maratha chiefs. Eventually, the Peshwa became the real decision maker. Balaji Vishwanath, the first Peshwa, was an expert administrator under him. The office of Peshwa became hereditary. Bajirao first succeeded his father Balaji Vishwanath and pursued an ambitious expansionist policy. Under Balaji Bajirao, the Maratha kingdom reached its greatest extent wherein both Delhi and Punjab were captured in the years 1753 and 1758 respectively. The period under study also saw the rise of powerful Maratha families like the Bhosle, Gaekwad, Scindia and the Holkar. The growth of the Maratha Empire induced a certain degree of anxiety amongst the Sikhs, Rajputs, the rulers of Hyderabad, Bengal, etc. Therefore, when the Marathas clashed with Ahmad Shah Abdali in the Third Battle of Panipat in 1761, none of these powers extended military aid to them, resulting in the beginnings of the decline of the Marathas. So, what were the reasons behind the downfall of the Marathas? They had a large army under their control but failed to effectively control it. They failed to unite under one leader. Their policy of plundering, imposing Chauth and Sardeshmukhi on neighboring areas resulted in loss of support from Rajputs, Jats, Sikh and other people. They failed to modernize their warfare techniques. Now let us see the last topic of the chapter, that is peasant rebellions. During the reign of the later Mughals, as the governors consolidated their control over the provinces, the periodic remission of revenue to the center declined. These governors increased the taxes on peasants and the zamindars that started rebelling against the Mughals. The land revenue administration had already been exploitative. Now, lack of centralized supervision meant a greater burden on the peasant and the local landed elites. The decline of the Mughal Empire and conflicts among the regional kingdoms created an atmosphere of strife and tension throughout the subcontinent. The British East India Company exploited such a situation of political uncertainty to consolidate themselves in India.
So, students, you saw that after the death of the Aurangzeb, the Mughal Empire weakened. His successors were not able to firmly maintain control over the far off regional principalities. As the imperial authority weakened, the nobles found themselves virtually independent as a collective group and thereby began to rule over their kingdoms. So, this was all about the chapter, The New Political Formation. I hope you all would have understood the chapter. Students, read the chapter thoroughly and try to do the book exercises. Till then, stay home, stay safe, stay happy. Thank you.